Okay, so now we've made it through client work, we've made it through teaching. Now let's talk about selling. I saved selling for last because I feel like selling is most often what people think of when they think of how you can be a successful artist, especially if you're just starting. I think it's easy to look at really successful Etsy shops or people on Instagram who seem to just like sell out of everything that they launch. And so selling is obviously a really popular way to make money, and it seems like a really easy way to make money, although I will say there is a lot that goes underneath selling things that make for successful shops. And some of which I'm not going to go in depth here, but here we'll briefly talk about some of that. But here, it's mostly just a brainstorm of what you can sell, how you can sell, and where you can sell it. So let's talk about the what. This is by no means an exhaustive list of possible things that you can sell, and some of these, there are even subcategories underneath these main categories. For example, on the second row, there I have listed things like printable resources and templates and kits, and those can range from just about anything, like resources on how to, like teaching resources like we've talked about, um, or resources on teaching people just about anything. Templates, you can sell like wedding design templates or card templates, or with kits, you can sell lots of different kinds of kits. So um, all of these things are a result of me sitting down and thinking, what are the kinds of things that you could possibly sell as a lettering artist or an illustrator? And these are the first ones that came to mind. So you might have a different list, but this is mine. Number one, original designs can obviously mean like just about anything. I think that that one has the most subcategories. So original designs can mean you selling original paintings. It can mean original lettering pieces, and by original I mean it's the physical paper that you wrote on or that you painted on. So it's you writing on something and then selling that thing that you wrote on. So whether that's a painting or piece of paper or a wood slab or a canvas or acrylic or anything like that, I would classify that as an original design. And under original designs, I just want to say there is some kind of hybrid here between selling and client work, where you can sell like themed things regularly. So I know some shops sell like pet portraits. They focus mostly on pet portraits, or you can sell like semi-custom things where it's a design that you've come up with the option for something customized. Like, for example, I in my Etsy shop, and for a long time and still in my Etsy shop, I sell my really popular night sky design, and I sell it in different colors, and I have the option for like a custom quote that I can letter on top of it. And so that's kind of like a hybrid of client work, like a hybrid of me just selling something and someone commissioning me. So there's definitely gray area in there. And then after original designs, obviously, there are just so many directions that you can go. Um, One thing I will say about, especially if you're selling things like collateral, like physical things, I've found when I've tried to sell physical things that, for me anyway, and for my audience, it was harder. Partly because it's harder to sell physical things for more. So, like, just because of how much it costs and what people are willing to pay for it. So, like, clothes, or mugs, or tote bags, or things like that. You usually have to source those from somewhere, and often what it costs you to purchase those things that you've sourced from some random company, versus what you can realistically charge someone to buy it from you, the profit margin is a little slimmer. So that is why sourcing where you get your products is a really important part of selling, and probably a reason why I haven't really ventured much into selling physical products. Full disclosure, just because it's not something I'm very passionate about. Selling like physical products isn't something I'm very passionate about. So I haven't done tons of research on that, but we're going to talk about that in the next slide. This slide is just about what you can sell. Pretty much you can sell whatever you want, and there will probably be some kind of market somewhere that will purchase what you sell. So, keeping that in mind, once again, this is probably not an exhaustive list. Think about what you might want to sell, and if you think of other things that would be fun for you to sell, go ahead and add them to the list. But this is the what you can possibly sell as an artist according to the list that I made myself. So now that we've covered that, let's move on to the where. So now that we've talked about what you can sell, and most important, that you can pretty much sell anything, let's talk about where. So first of all, let's talk about where you can sell things. Online, there are obvious places like Etsy. Society6 is a place where you can upload your designs. If you know how to digitize, you can upload your designs, and Society6 will put them on products and ship them to the customer. The downside of Society6 is you get very little money with each sale because Society6 does most of the legwork. But I know a lot of people who make Society6 work as a good source of income. So Society6, Spoonflower, Minted are all similar to that. Minted is a place where an invitation design place where you have to apply to get your designs on there, or like whatever is most popular. The most popular designs are the ones that make money, but that's a good place to go. Spoonflower is where you can put your designs on fabric. And then there are, I'm sure, dozens of other places like Society6, Spoonflower, and Minted that will accept original designs and help you sell them, and they'll take part of the commission. So other marketplaces, you can sell things on Facebook Marketplace or on Amazon. Basically lots of different places where you can sell your stuff online. You can also sell your stuff on social media. So sometimes I do like auctions on Instagram, or I'll run sales through my Instagram stories and just have people PayPal me or something. Or you can sell things on your own website. If you have enabled your website for e-commerce functions and can process payment through your website, then that's obviously a good place to have your stuff for sale. So those are some places online that you can sell your stuff. Local places where you can sell your stuff are, obvious places like craft fairs or farmers markets. Usually for those, you have to apply to get into a craft fair. I think we've talked about craft fairs before, in that if you have a booth or a table, often you have to pay for it. So one thing to look out for at craft fairs is to calculate your projections to make sure that you're going to make more than it would cost you to purchase the booth, if making money at the craft fair is your end goal. Now, we also talked about craft fairs as a good place to make connections, right? To build your community and make connections for potential clients, if client work is a place that you want to gear your business toward. So you don't necessarily have to have a goal of making a profit at craft fairs, but it's just something to know if selling is your main point. So, and then other places you can sell things are like local shops around town, like local novelty shops or craft shops, or anywhere that sells things like by their cash register, or that has like a local maker section. Even if they don't, the worst that can happen if you go up to a shop owner and ask them if they would be willing to sell some of your stuff is that they say no. Most likely, they will say there's some kind of process that you have to go through, or they will say sure, and usually for stuff like that, they'll take some kind of commission of the sale. So sometimes it's as high as 50%. Most of the time, I've discovered it's like 20, 25, or 30%, somewhere in there, that the owner of the shop that has your stuff takes off of the price of whatever you're trying to sell. Sometimes you can sell things wholesale, so like selling instead of waiting for your things to sell at this store, maybe the owner of the store purchases a large quantity of whatever you're selling from you, and then they turn around and sell it at a profit. That's also another option for selling at local things. Just before I move on to where do I source things, I just want to say one more time, the worst thing that can happen if you ask a local shop owner if they'd be willing to put your stuff up for sale in their shop is that they say no. So if it's scary for you or you're nervous about it, tell yourself that a lot of times and give it a try. And maybe you try it and it doesn't work out, and so that's not a direction that you go. But you never know. You could try it and discover you really like working with local vendors, and you become part of a rich art community in your area, and it becomes really lucrative. So either way, I recommend that is something you try if you really want to sell things as your main source or as just a source of revenue. Okay, so where of selling things also has to do with where you source products, right? I think sourcing products, like I mentioned before, is one of the greatest hardships of people who sell products, is figuring out how to get the best ones, how to get products that are quality, but that are also cheap, or not cheap necessarily, but at a good price so that you can make a profit. And so this is going to take a lot of research on your end to figure out what are the best sources and vendors for you. I've listed a few that I just know off the top of my head. Like I said, I haven't gone this route really because I'm not really passionate about selling things, so it's not something I've spent a ton of time researching. But here are a few resources just in case these help spark your own research. So you can look at drop ship places, which drop ship is a term that basically means you work with a company that creates whatever product based on a design that you send, and then they ship it themselves. So you don't have to worry about shipping. But part of the price of working with that company is the fact that they ship the product for you. And so typically, like Printed Mint is the one that comes to mind immediately. Society 6, I think, could also be considered dropship, but Printed Mint comes to mind because they do dropship and they're also pretty expensive, but they do have quality stuff, so that's one thing to think about. These Are Things is a really cool company that sells enamel pins as well as helps make your own custom enamel pins as part of something that they do. I think they do pins and patches. These Are Things is a company I discovered through Creative Pep Talk, my favorite podcast. Sticker Mule is a very popular place to source stickers. I've talked about Spoonflower, how you can source fabric through Spoonflower. Vistaprint pretty much prints any kind of business thing you might need, but they also print invitations. I did an invitation job where the client, the bride, really needed like a cheaper version. She needed a cheaper package and didn't really care so much about having like super quality thread count invitations or anything, so we just went through Vistaprint. Costco also does some cheaper prints for posters and prints or anything, or invitations. Shutterfly, or even just sourcing things on Amazon, like if you sell mugs, or if you want to put your own, like if you have a Cricut and make vinyl designs and want to put those on various items than, purchasing things on Amazon or any other, place like that where you just buy the item yourself is a good place to do it. Mostly this list is to help you know that if you want to sell something, it's not that hard to go out and find it. I think that was something that kind of was a big hang up for me as I was first starting to explore selling as an option for revenue. I was like, well, how do you even find things to sell? How does that even happen? And it happens by you doing your research and putting yourself out there and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. And you'd be surprised. Like I mentioned, people will buy things. People will buy what you sell. You just have to market yourself and make quality things. And if you're really passionate about it, then you'll want to put in the time that it will take to make that work for you. So that kind of goes into my last point on this slide, which is do your own research. And I have discovered in my years of doing this that if you really like doing something, then doing the research doesn't feel so much like work as it does just fuel your desire to really get it right. And if you don't like doing the research on something, then that could be a good indication that this is not the route for you. But doing your own research is also like a big thing that feels like, how do I even do that research? How do I find these things? Google search items that you like. I mean, I found lots of things through Google. You can look through custom maker hashtags on social media. But if you're really stuck and just you really want to do something that other people do, then ask other people what they do. They might not tell you. Sometimes people are stingy about their own research and like where they've sourced their products. But again, the worst that can happen is they say no. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask your friends and ask your contemporaries and ask people who you look up to how they do what they do, because they just might tell you. Okay, so that's the where. Next is how.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me in this video of my Ways to Make Money as a Freelance Artist series. I had such a fun time making this for you, and I can't wait to make you even more content. So if you like what you see, or if you liked any of my, I have some watercolor tutorials as well, make sure to hit that subscribe button, because that's the best way to support YouTubers that you want to continue making content for you. And if you want to view any of the other videos in this Ways to Make Money series, make sure to check the description below this video. It has a full course schedule that details when the rest of the classes will be released, and if they've already been released, then it will have links to those classes as well. So thank you again for joining me, and can't wait to see you next time.